Hi everybody, it's me again, Ashley Sage. Welcome back to my channel, Ashley Sage Esoterics, and I'm back with Helen again. We're going to do another beautiful fairy chat. Welcome to, I think it's episode 3.
4 now, I think.
Oh my god, how
I
exciting.
know.
Sorry we missed the last one. I was away in Hawaii moving Janine, and now I'm back. I'm settled back in Alberta and ready to get this show going again. We got some really good stuff that we're decided to bring to the table, and we're also going to do a card pull by the end of this video so that you guys can kind of see how different a fairy reading kind of comes out. They always have a different agenda in the fairy world, as we've been talking about, so there's not too many things we can really delve deep into with the fairy cards, but they do have their own special little agenda, right?
Definitely. They talk about things that are completely different.
Yes, right? They're like, oh, you care about this? We don't. Right?
You should care about this, not this.
Yeah, exactly. Usually that's what it is. So one of the big things that we decided to bring to the table was connecting to source, a higher power, whoever you want to kind of connect with, which is really key. And this kind of what they've kind of been helping us build up to is what we've come to the conclusion, because it's all about connecting, creating that source energy, creating that sacred space, that time for yourself. And one of the things I wanted to mention was connecting to that higher power, connecting to something that is sacred to you, important to you. So that goes along the lines of spirit guides, angels, dragons, the fairies, ancestors, all that fun stuff. So they really wanted us to kind of drill it in today, that creating that time for that soul family is what I like to call it, because sometimes I don't want to address like one specific group. I want to address all of them. So I call them my beautiful soul family. Sometimes I get quite specific myself, depending on the day or what I'm doing. But most of the time I'm addressing everybody all at the same time. And one of the big things that I do is I burn incense every day. I'll burn special herbs, my herb blend that I have, I'll burn those. And that creates like a minute of my day that is just for spirit. And I actually have a little conversation. I go, hey guys, how are you doing? You know, it's me, Ashley again, right? They all know who I am, but I'll usually be like, hey, let's do this. If there's anything specific I need to know, please bring it to my attention today. If I'm not pulling cards for myself at that specific moment. So I do like to always vocalize it, because sometimes we say so many things in our head. Sometimes the spirits are like, is that meant for us, or is that just a thing we're thinking about? Right. So I always like to say you have to physically vocalize it out into the universe so that you can at least address them, because they want to be pinpointed. Let's call it like that. So I always like to say it out loud, ask them, because then it's like playing a bad game of Marco Polo and you don't know where you're going, especially at the beginning. Right. So when you're saying, hey, angels, I would like to work with you guys today. Can you please come in and show me some guidance? Is what I specifically say, right? And then that goes for my ancestors, my guides, my angels. That goes for everybody. And I always make sure I'm working with a 100% love and light. As long as I've been doing this, there's been a few times that there's been something that kind of comes in and it's a little sneaky, and I don't know who it is, because they can sometimes masquerade as something else. So I always double check that I make sure that it's 100% love and light, and it's here for my highest and best good. That's a key thing that I always say. Do you have anything specific that you do?
Very similar. As I say, I'll burn incense, and usually I set my spirit time at the end of the day rather than the beginning. My dedicated spirit time in the morning, I'll very much kind of, when I first wake up, I kind of, hello,
Okay.
how's the day gonna go? Just sort of chatter while I'm getting ready. But in terms of sort of a ritual where I make sure that happens every day to spend that time, I will burn incense and light a candle in the evening and just sort of sit with it for a few minutes, just at the end of the day, and just kind of reflect and exactly like that, vocalize what it is that I'm asking, and tell them, what I'd like to know, or let me know if there's something that I should know. And I believe the same thing very much, that you need to vocalize. It's fine to do it in your head if you're in a position where you can't speak out loud for whatever reason.
Right?
But very much I like to vocalize it or if I can't vocalize necessarily what I'm saying, at least indicate with some sort of sound. I don't know, ring a bell or
That's a good one. Good one.
Yeah. Just to put that vibration out there, just as you say, because then it sort of pinpoints and lets them know.
Right? It's like you're putting it into a very specific direction instead of it just staying in your head or just in your house. Right? So when you say, "Hey, angels, this is what," and like I said, like you said, if you're in a position where you can't say it out loud, it's always nice. Like if you can just snap your fingers or ring a bell and just say, like in your head, it's like, "This is for my angels," right? So then it has a direction it's going to, because they know where to find it. But of course, we're limited in our 3D world of how much we're seeing, especially at the beginning. You're not quite sure where you're going or where to navigate or what's safe, right? So that's usually why I say it out loud, or if you can write it down even, right?
Definitely. And I really like that you brought up the fact that sometimes it can be something that's a little tricky, that you don't necessarily want to be working with, or could even be a little bit dangerous. And I tend to do something very similar and just kind of, if it's someone new that I've not worked with before that appears to me, then I kind of ask them questions. And, if you don't feel like the energy is right, I just say, yeah, thank you. I don't want to work with you. I'm really sorry, but thanks very much for sort of appearing. Because even the negative has its own kind of place in the world, but you don't have to work with it. So you can then, that's where putting those kind of grounding practices and things that we've talked about before into practice is really helpful, because it then means that you can barrier that off and just say, no, no, thank you, go away.
Yeah, that's a good one too.
Yeah, and you can always ask your other guides to help you if there's an entity that's being a bit pushy on your energy. Ask your love and light. The soul family, I love that phrase. I absolutely love that. I'm going to steal that. That's going to be my
do it. Take
it. They'll help you to move that energy along if you need to.
Oh, 100%. And one of the things I was thinking about while we were just talking is when we say out loud to our soul family, XYZ, this is what I want. Sometimes you're not going to hear it like in your ears, right? And you're not even going to hear it in your head. You might not hear anything right away. What I usually got was just a sense of knowing, like I knew it was on the right track, or like if I had a very specific question. Sometimes you say, like, what am I supposed to be doing today? And they're like, oh, whatever you want, right? Is what it feels like, whatever makes you happy, right? So if you got to get really specific about, should I be taking my car out today? Do I need to be driving today? And if you get the sense of no, then you maybe dial back, maybe get somebody else to drive you or something like that. So I find getting quite specific the first little bit until you get comfortable with that energy and knowing how it communicates, how it's going to come through, how you're going to hear it, right? Some people see pictures, some people hear actual auditory full sentences, which is great. I didn't get the names of my guides when I was younger for years.
Yeah,
right. I nicknamed them at the beginning. Yeah. So, but they knew who I was talking to.
Yes, exactly. They do. My fairy guide gave me his name pretty quickly, but my other guides, some of them I still don't know their names.
Right?
Yeah. I know their energy and I know their feel, but I don't know their name.
Yeah, and sometimes that's a very human thing, I'm guessing, is like, what is your name? What do I call you? Instead of just connecting to that energy. And that's another thing that kind of links into the other videos we were doing, kind of comes in and we can bring it in, right? Is just connecting to that energy and having that initial relationship is so important. So you know what you're talking to and who it is, and making sure that energy feels really good, because it won't come with demands. It won't be telling you what to do. Like, you have to do this to make your life better, right? They're just going to suggest gently, be like, are you sure you want to do that? Because it's not really going to end well, right? Kind of thing, right? They're not going to give you demands. They're not going to ask for gifts or, certain actions for you to do. Of course, as you progress throughout your spirituality, there are different things you're going to want to do. But at the beginning, they're not going to be like, I need you to sit every Saturday at 8 p.m. and burn a candle, and I need you to do X, Y, and Z, and you have to have these specific things in front of you for us to connect. They're not going to ask for that, right?
No, so definitely.
That's another big one to differentiate.
Yes, if they start giving you instructions, like specific instructions, then you're probably talking to something that you don't really need to be talking to at the time, because
10 out of 10.
there's no need for that.
Time to send that person away and start talking to something else.
Yes, definitely, definitely. I think that it's really important to know that they are guides. They're not setting anything out for you. They are helping you. They're assisting you. They believe in your free will. They absolutely believe that it's your choice.
Mm-hmm.
They will suggest and they will guide, but it's ultimately your choice.
It's your roller coaster, and you can do whatever you want. Yeah. So yeah, coming back to that, summarize, making time to connect and connecting to the right energy and making sure that you are doing it. Because as much as I would love to say you could do this once a week and it would work, it's going to take you longer. So you want to make a little bit of time, and it's not like you have to sit there for like half an hour or even an hour. It takes 2 minutes, maybe one, even 30 seconds, right? Just to say, hey guys, what's up? Light a candle, light some incense, drink your tea, drink your coffee during the day, morning, evening, night, whenever, right? Because I'm a morning person, you're a night person, right? So it depends on where you're comfortable and what you need to do, right?
Definitely. It's all about just having that intention. That again, I keep using the word action, but that's because the fairies are very big on actions.
Yeah.
So it's all about that taking an intentional action to show that you are, as we were talking about last time, that you're trustworthy, and that you really, your intent is to, make that connection and to be with them, and just so, as you say, it doesn't have to be very much. It doesn't have to be very long. It's just taking that step
to do it and taking the time and taking the action, which was another big thing that they wanted us to kind of bring up today, was taking action. Because there's a lot of stagnation going on right now. There's a lot of weird energy kind of floating about, and a lot of waiting that's been happening for the last few years, and especially right now, that people aren't taking action in their day-to-day lives. They're sitting around waiting for XYZ to happen, right? But one of the big things about being human is that we have to take action. If we're just sitting around waiting, we're not doing anything. That's not the meaning of life. We have to take action. We have to create time. We have to create our own joys, right? What makes us happy, right? Doing all that stuff. And sometimes it's, frustrating trying to find that motivation, for sure.
Yes, it can be. Yeah, and sometimes it does feel like, even if you are, working at it, it's not happening. But the fact that you're working at it is the important bit, as you say. If we sort of sit around as human beings, before we know it, 5 years has disappeared, and you've
for sure,
you've not done anything that you wanted to do, not even anything small that you wanted to do. So especially because our lifespans are reduced compared to some of the beings that we interact with. It means that we tend to take time quite seriously. Yeah,
we've a much shorter span to get a lot of stuff done, right?
If you're not doing anything, you're not progressing, and
and it doesn't mean like you have to do grandiose, huge, drastic things that are life-changing. Of course, those would be fabulous as we build towards those. But learning at least to take time for ourselves is key. Make time for what makes us happy is one of the biggest ones I've been getting, even in my day-to-day meditations, let alone just with the spirits or just with fairies, is that if you're not doing it, you're not doing it, right? You're just sitting and you're waiting for this random inspiration to come. And like I said, the inspiration is hard sometimes, but we have to do it to ourselves. And if you're sitting around and waiting, you're not, getting out and experiencing life. You're not eating the food you want to eat. You're not reading the books you want to read. You're not creating the art that you're inspired to do, right? You're just, I'll do it tomorrow. I'll do it tomorrow. I'll do it tomorrow, right? And then tomorrow turns into 6 months, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, that was so much time. I could have done all this stuff, right?
Yeah, and you can miss your window and have to wait for the next window, and that can be frustrating. When you, especially as you grow in your spiritual kind of practice, you might start to realize that you've missed some windows when you were, sort of stuck in the human, and you weren't you were just kind of being alive. You weren't living, and that can be frustrating itself when you go, oh, I they were telling me to have a go at that, and I didn't have a go. But a new window will open, It always does.
Always.
You just let it go and just move through. But
Mm-hmm.
as you say, it's if you stagnate and don't open up to the spirit guides like we've just been talking about, then they can't. Then inspiration tends not to come.
Yeah.
The big part of inspiration, especially from the fairies angle, is they will come in. You will have your inspiration fairy, your muse, whatever it suggests. Why don't we have a go at this? And like you say, it doesn't have to be anything major. It could literally be, in your head, you've always pictured a specific tree that you'd always thought, oh, I'd love to, draw that for myself or create that for myself.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't have to be anything that you share with anybody. It can just be you. But do it. Have a go at it.
Exactly.
Play with it. It's bring those things out that make you happy. And then the more you do that, the more you become, one phrase I was given from the fairies was, the more you understand the little things that are the great things. It's very strange. The fairies very much see the small things as being as important as the big things.
I love it.
If you're playing with that, then you'll start to realize that just the tiniest little thing that makes your day go from, oh, I really didn't want to wake up today, to, oh my gosh, look how great today is. It could literally just be, it could literally just be that you've had a scoop of ice cream or something that you really liked, or somebody, I don't know, somebody walking past you in the street smiled at you and it made you think, oh, actually, today's not as bad as I thought it was. Like,
really sweet. Right?
Yeah, exactly. And it's those little things then become as pleasurable as any of the big things that you can think about, and that changes your entire aspect. And then you do more action, and the more action you do, the more it rolls into the bigger, the
like bigger life experience, right? Yes. It all rolls together. It's not all about big, huge events that are grandiose and life changing. It's all the little things kind of in between, right?
Yeah, it's life. Experience it.
Yeah,
even the negative parts, they carry their own weight. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a great time right now. I think it's spring in most parts of the world right now. So at least the sun is out. It feels a little bit better. I know it's rainy in most parts. Some days here it's cold, really cold, and some days it's not. So it's kind of hit and miss. But that kind of helps people at the same time, like having that extra sunshine, having a couple more hours during the day, and having the motivation to actually do things outside, which I think is really key.
Yes. Right. Yes. Yeah, I will say I'm very much I'm not great with timekeeping in terms of making things at the specific time. That's not one of my strengths, shall I say. But it is easier definitely when the sun's out and you feel like actually it makes you feel more bouncy and think, yes, actually let's get out, let's do things.
Oh, for sure. Right? I do want to do a few more things when it's warmer out, for sure. Sometimes it's a little too hot and I'm just like, well, I'm going to stay inside a little bit. But it's definitely a big game changer for sure. So I like how this reading that we're doing today is it's got a nice flow to the other ones and to the seasonal changes as well, which is really good.
Yes, definitely. That is another thing that you really do feel about the fairies. They will suggest doing things in the summer and not doing anything during the winter.
Oh yeah, and that's a big thing for me over the last few years. I've actually, I really don't like being super productive in the winter.
Yeah.
Well, we don't get a lot of daylight. There's less time during the day here, and it's very cold, it's very snowy, it can be very rainy, very windy, right? It's not as fun to be out and about, but I love getting a few more hours of sleep. I love eating a little bit more meals, and I don't like going to a bunch of events and keeping as productive. And I find that's a big thing that I'm trying to step away from, is keeping that really tight schedule in the winter. I'll keep a really fun schedule in the summer, no problem, right? Because I have way more energy. But I find with the seasons, I like to hibernate. And I think it's a really good. It did great for my body, so we're good.
Definitely, and it is that as we're talking about, taking action, now is the time to take action. That energy is there, that positivity, that summer energy. Obviously, for people who live in the other side of the world, their time is now much more quiet. But as the fairies tend to speak to us, it's like our time is to get busy. And like you say, it is much nicer, because I always do that. I've always done that. I've always been much less busy in the winter. I do like to follow that sort of seasonal change, because I think there's also an important time to not take action, because you need to recover. You do need to, all that hard work and effort that you've put in. You do also need the flip side of that. You need the time to reflect. You need the time to see what went well, what didn't work, see what you need to change for next time, replenish your energy. So yeah, but for right now, get out there, do things.
Do the things.
Do the things.
So do we want to do a card pull for the week?
Yes.
I'll pull one with my deck. You can pull one with your deck. I believe both of our decks are both created. I have the book here by Brian and Wendy. Part of Fairy. I think the second edition. I think you have the first, but their decks are great if you want to go check them out and start pulling cards for yourself. I highly suggest it when you're connecting. Any type of, this is more of an oracle deck is what I'm going to say. They give more of like a wise answer. Let's put it that way. Whereas like with the tarot, I can get quite specific. They've got months, times, days, actions, jobs, kind of stuff like this, where this is an oracle. So this is like a broader spectrum of advice that kind of comes in from universal divine is what I would say.
Yes. Yeah. I'd say the same thing. And also they can be more physical than other oracle decks.
Yes.
They can be a bit more, because the fairy can tend to understand the real world a bit, the human world, more than some other spirit guides. So they are a bit more physical, sort of wide physical, rather than wide, completely spiritual. Does that make sense?
Yep, 100%. Okay, I'm going to take my deck and I'm going to give a shuffle. Pull a card. Do you want to do the same thing? Do you have your deck?
Yep, I'll show mine. Mine is slightly different on the back side.
Right, art.
Yeah, a bit. Okay, so I've got this.
Right, figure it out.
That's the one. If I just put it above my face, that's fine. She's all very much about sort of unconditional giving and unconditional receiving. So she's like, if you're feeling stuck and really just in a rut, then try getting out there and doing a few acts of random kindness, and just do stuff for other people, and then you'll be able to sort of free yourself up from that stagnation.
I love it.
And then we've got the Piper, who is literally all about just getting involved with creating whatever you want to create. Music. Like, even if you don't want to create, if you don't want to create music, get music involved. So while you're doing something else, be listening to music or dance or whatever. Like, have music involved is what you're saying, because that makes it so much easier for
the whole action, period.
Yeah, just doing anything. Yeah, it just brings in that harmony and that creativity, and just
I love that.
So
that's a great one, because that's one of the big things that I actually do in day to day when I'm connecting, or two, just trying to get things done. And I had to take care of my lawn. It was a jungle. I'm going to put it gently. It's a jungle. But I put on music, and as I was taking care of the lawn, I was dancing. I had my headphones on, so I wasn't really paying attention to anybody else. I'm sure I looked like a fool, but I loved it. And all of a sudden, I was like, it was done, and it looked great, and I felt good about it. So I like those. That one was good. And then I got this one, which I love, the Lady of the Unicorn. So when they find it, it's so funny, because when the fairies find a theme, they like to run with it. And she's about our magical connection, guardianship, and creating that connection, how important it is. And when you connect to this kind of energy, this is the energy that will help you get through day-to-day life, get through your stresses, get you out of that funk, right? this is all about getting you out of the funk. We're in two totally different countries, and we pulled like three different types of cards with almost all the same meaning. So I love it.
Yours is saying like get in touch with those guides, and these guys are saying those guides will then help you to make these actions. They'll help you.
So it's connecting to it just so that it has that connection. And one of the things I kind of left out at the beginning was having a spiritual connection helps ground in your earth body. Because we're here on earth. We're here, we're 3D, we're human, we're made out of flesh, right? Whereas the spirit world lives in that quantum realm, the ethers, that magical area that we all have a hard time getting to. So creating this connection helps ground in that energy into your human body so that day-to-day life is a little bit easier. It's not as dreadful, right? Because we're still going to have bad days. We're still going to have great days. We'll still have neutral days. Those neutral days are key, right? Getting back to that neutral so that you're not flip-flopping all over, and then you can just sit at that neutral. So having that spiritual connection helps get you connected, and then your actions help make it a little bit easier.
That's it. And you can get out here, you can be creating these actions, you can be dancing around doing whatever you like, or you can be out there with, as I say, random acts of kindness. The fairies love that idea. They love the idea of charity.
Ooh, they love that. And
that's it. They will help mend things. They will help fix. They just like the idea of giving without expecting something in return. And it doesn't have to be big things. It can be the smile to the person in the street. It can be the
complimenting somebody's shoes.
Yeah, literally. Just
getting a sweet conversation, right? Yeah,
that's it. So that's what this week's all about. It's all about getting out there, connecting, and then just enjoying life.
I love it. I love it. It's beautiful. Well, this was great. Sorry, I'm moving the things out of the way. They're all in the way. As always, I love how they brought all the messages together. Feel free to pick up your own cards. I think I got mine at a card shop in Calgary, here where I live. They're easy to find. Connect. I'm going to put all my links in the description below. I'll put all of Helen's in there as well. She is doing those readings. And you do have a new blog up. Do you want to?
I do.
I'm going to link that up. So if anybody's looking for a really good read, you're looking for some kind of different content to take in, and need something a little bit more lighthearted, something a little bit soulful, I'll put the connection in there so that everybody can check out your blog. And we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Thank you very much. See you soon.
All right. See you guys.
Bye.